So my one system is one room at a time, one area of that room at a time, and one thing at a time, which sounds deceptively simple, except sometimes it's hard to do. It's difficult to decide which one am I going to start. The first thing I'm going to say is please don't start in the basement as your one room. Don't start in the basement with 30 years worth of Christmas decorations. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Don't do that to yourself. Start with the smallest room. Or if you're an entrepreneur, then you would probably want to start with your office. Moving forward, one area of that room at a time.
So if you're finding that you're managing all of your leads out of your inbox, first step is not to build a CRM system and a pipeline, right? That may be step 2 or 3. First step is just to identify them in your inbox and maybe automatically tag them by keyword. Set a filter or a rule that when they come into their inbox, they get tagged and made important. Second thing might be down the track as you improve that system is to have them push into your CRM as new leads and then build it from there. I think that's such an important thing that ultimately we're talking about organization. Systems are just a way of organizing workflow into simple, repeatable process. Yes. And if we try to complicate it too much, as you point out, it becomes overwhelming and we often don't do it. And more importantly, we don't get to stick at it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of More Clients, Less Effort. I'm your host, Tim Hyde, and today I'm joined by the amazing Kitti Andrews, otherwise known as Your Thought Organizer. Kitti helps successful entrepreneurs go from a state of cluttered chaos to calm, control, and cash in 90 days. And she believes that the lack of also that physical clutter or the lack of focus and concentration are very, very closely related, especially if one is challenged with the traits of ADHD, which many of us are. So she's developed a step-by-step one system that has helped her clients to clear years of mental and physical clutter without getting completely overwhelmed in the process, which sounds absolutely amazing. And I suspect looking around my desk, I need a CEO. Kitti's the CEO of Declutter the Brain and has presented at Stanford and Harvard universities and contributed articles to the Los Angeles Tribune magazine and USA Today. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's been worth waiting for. You're a busy man.
Well, I think I'm just going to sort of pick on something in your background. So those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see this, but obviously if you're listening to the podcast right now, you would not see that Kitti has behind her head on her wall behind her, nice, neat walls, but it says, clear the clutter, calm the chaos. Now, I'm curious, Kitti, where was it for you that you suddenly, I guess, worked out that mess, clutter, was actually kind of holding you back?
Frankly, it's a continuing journey. It really is. And that's just the nature of clutter, because I believe that your physical clutter is a manifestation of what's going on in your head. Unfortunately, it's also vice versa. So I have asked many, many people, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do you think it's physical clutter that's causing the mental clutter, or vice versa? And I've really come to the conclusion that it's the mental clutter that causes the physical clutter. And especially if you have busy brain, then there's a lot happening there, and you will just say, well, I'll get to it in a minute. I'll get to it in a minute. And a minute turns into months. And then all of a sudden you kind of wake up from your hyper-focusing state and look around and go, OMG, I better do something about this. That's what my partner is talking about. Okay, fair enough. I didn't even notice it, because the clutter blindness can be a real thing. However, it's always there in your subconscious. And when you're an entrepreneur trying to focus on what really matters, and like reaching out to potential clients, all of these kind of things, you're still borderline distracted by your surroundings.
I think you're absolutely right. It's often said that as entrepreneurs, we're terribly bad at the shiny bauble syndrome. Yep. That new shiny object that comes along and takes up your social media feed and go, oh gosh, maybe I should go and do that, and maybe go and do this. And you have lots of projects that potentially aren't finished properly.
I've never had any of those. Right. Yeah.
Well, I certainly have. I think I have a firm belief that your success as an entrepreneur, right? Your success as a business owner is the ability to distill all of the inputs that we have. And there are lots of ideas, lots of stuff going on, lots of things we can do, lots of opinions, both from ourselves, our staff, our spouse, our business partners, and what we see in the market, into a really clear and distinct, actionable plan.
Absolutely.
And partly that is actually, you're very right. Part of that is actually kind of getting rid of all the clutter and the chaos and calming that down so that you've got a clear course of action.
And the funny thing is, I just thought of this, that we've touched on physical clutter, we've touched on mental clutter. There's also digital, which, because we pretty much have no choice. Look at us, we're on a computer feed right now. We live on computer, and when the emails get all piled up, or the LinkedIn messages or anything like that, all of that just adds to the chaos too. And overwhelm starts to be a very big beast that rears its ugly head. And that can be crippling to you just go, I'm never going to be able to get all of this. What happens then? Your self-esteem erodes, and your current clients and your potential clients, they can feel that. So the more that you can clear, then the better off you are. Will you be able to do it all? No, I'm afraid you won't. And that'll be part of the takeaway today. I'm going to get people to go easy on themselves, but
how did you first, I guess, get into this space? What was the transition for you? I know that you were an orderly kid, you were a file clerk, you were sort of the waitress voted most likely to organise the walk-in fridge, to real estate staging where you're getting rid of, in this case, physical clutter to make something look neat and orderly. What was it for you that really drew you to this idea that if we can reduce the noise, reduce the clutter, reduce the chaos, that we're actually going to be more efficient?
Really, my own journey into the virtual world, because I was involved in a business mastermind, a year-long business mastermind, and I had just gotten into physical decluttering, kind of getting away from real estate staging and cleaning and exploring other options. And she said to me one day, the instructor, she said, do you go into people's homes? And I said, yes. And she said, well, what about virtual? Well, this was back in 2017. And I looked it up. What's virtual decluttering? There were at that time three practitioners that I could find. One of them was in Sydney, Australia. The other was in England. The other was in North Carolina in the States. 3. So it was very new then, but it was intriguing. And I'll tell you why, Tim, is because I got a couple of my classmates said, let's try this out. Let's see how this works. And lo and behold, we discovered, they said, I like this idea much better than having someone come into my home and do this, because I feel like I have to clean for the cleaning lady and kind of thing. Your wife, for example, having the cleaning lady and she's scurrying around the night before kind of thing.
That's the thing, right? You clean before the cleaners get there.
Whereas when you're doing virtual decluttering, then you can focus. Note that you're going to hear me use that word a lot, but you can focus on the one room and the one area of that room. I'm giving things away here, but you can focus on exactly what is necessary and not waste your mental energy on things that don't matter at the time. Say, for example, an entrepreneur wants his office done first and foremost. So we can just focus on the office. The entranceway, we'll get to it. But virtual is, as a realtor friend of mine put it way back then, he said, this is a really good idea. He says, it sounds like a less intrusive, more focused way to get rid of years of clutter. And the less intrusive really hit me, because people are ashamed of their clutter. They feel ashamed. How did I let it get this bad? How am I going to clean it? And it's probably going to come back and I'm a failure. All of the negative stuff starts to come in. So 5 years later, it's coming along very nicely. Thank you very much.
So why is it that we let it get like that? Why is it that mental and physical clutter kind of undermines us so much?
Again, with the self-esteem, it's since many of my clients are, in fact, I'd say 80-90% over the years have been ADHD, and whoa, I am the card carrying, flag waving ADHDer myself, and these people are all like my sister and brother from another mother. There we go. I went off track. What was the question again, Tim?
Why does it undermine us? And how does it undermine our business?
Why does it undermine us is because ADHDers or everybody can be sensitive. And since especially entrepreneurs, our identity is very closely tied to our business and our success, as opposed to the corporate person, perhaps, or someone who works in retail. They may not tie their identity, I believe, to their work. But since if you feel like you don't cut the mustard, if you feel like you're not measuring up in your own head, because when one has high standards for oneself, then that can creep across to your health, your physical health, to your relationships. You're not feeling good about yourself, so you're not fully present with your partner. My God, if you're single, perhaps you're not fully present with the cat. That kind of mood. I hope that this is answering your question, because it is so intertwined.
Okay, well, I mean, look, let me share one of the techniques I've done, because I get to this stage every so often. And I know for myself, I actually went and bought myself a 2.5 meter long whiteboard several years ago. Ex-government furniture warehouse sale, awesome. Cost me $99, and probably the best $99 I've ever spent in my business, I would say. It's stuck on my wall just to my left in my office. And every so often, if I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, because we do as entrepreneurs collect so many ideas and things we do and half-developed projects, and right, and where do we put this stuff? And I'm going to get you a tip on how to organize it in a sec. But every so often, I'll clear my whiteboard off completely from whatever's on there, and I will just start brain dumping. I'll put all of my ideas for my business on my whiteboard, and just wherever they happen to fit. Doesn't really matter. There's no organization to it. It's just get it out of my head onto that whiteboard. And then what I'll do is I'll go through with some colored markers, and I'll start circling things that seem to be related to each other. I'll rub stuff out that appears more than once, and I'll try to organize it visually. I imagine you could do this with Post-it notes if you really wanted to. Just post it on a wall, and then you can sort of organize them out, and then you start ripping stuff off its duplicates, and you get down to this sort of action plan that says, these are the things I'm going to go and do. And then if you've got a team, you hand them out to your team and say, go and make that happen.
Right.
Now, but I find, certainly for me, just by doing that process, actually starts to make me feel a little bit more in control of all the things that are going on. And let's not beat about the bush here. There are lots of things going on in your business. And if you try to keep them all in your head, it becomes very difficult to lay them out, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you have a team, then that is one extra category that you're looking at. He's doing his job. Your editor, for example, he's doing his job, but he is still a category that you need to think of and make sure he has what he needs to do his job. Yeah. And I had a visual of you wiping that board clean. And I went, how good that must feel when you do that. It like, off with it, out with the old. We're just going to start fresh and see what happens. And I'll bet the stuff that you wiped off the whiteboard, you put it on months ago, and it was clutter. It no longer serves you. Correct?
Yes, unless it's the Wi-Fi password, in which case you can write that in permanent ink. But I'm curious, Kitti, what's your approach? I mean, how do you recommend people start to deal with their business color? Is it a process like I do, or is it something else that you suggest your clients do?
If we're talking about physical clutter now, yes?
Physical or mental clutter, how do you suggest businesses approach it? Because I'm sure there's plenty of businesses out there. And if you're one of these people looking around the office right now going, where do I start? Sometimes it's a little bit too overwhelming and we don't know where to start.
My one system, which helps people, I told you I'd use the word focus. It helps them to focus on one particular area. And I'll go through it quickly. And the thing that I like about it is that it is applicable to all the areas of your life. So my one system is one room at a time, one area of that room at a time, and one thing at a time, which sounds deceptively simple, except sometimes it's hard to do. It's difficult to decide which one am I going to start. The first thing I'm going to say is please don't start in the basement as your one room. Don't start in the basement with 30 years worth of Christmas decorations. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Don't do that to yourself. Start with the smallest room. Or if you're an entrepreneur, then you would probably want to start with your office. Moving forward, one area of that room at a time. And that's where it can go into, well, okay, I'll start on that corner. Well, maybe my desk, I have a meeting to get on. Geez, I'm tired. Just make a decision and stick with it, whatever area it is.
So what we're actually saying here in Nick, it doesn't matter. So if it's that corner or it's the desk or it's the in tray or virtually it's the inbox in your Outlook or Gmail account, it doesn't really matter where we start as long as we start and build momentum from that.
Momentum, that is very much the key, and it's a big reason in part 3 of this, which is one thing at a time. Is it tedious? Yes. Is it time consuming? I'm afraid so. However, is it the number one way that you will retrain your brain not to have the clutter back? Which is the big thing, because clutter can always come back, but with some retraining of the brain and some simple habits, it is easier to stay on top of it for life and make you more profitably productive, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. And effectively what we're just talking about here is another system, aren't we, Kitti? We're talking about a self-operating system as opposed to necessarily a business operating system, but it definitely affects your business, doesn't it? Because where things are up to.
The thing I mentioned that it's kind of multi-purpose, because anytime that you narrow things down to one, you were just saying about how entrepreneurs, of course, wear many hats. We have many different focuses. Where do we start? In the morning when you're brushing your teeth and your head is racing. Did I email that person? How am I going to get it all done? Knock it down into one category at a time. Say, for example, I will make sure that the people in my life are looked after. Does my assistant have what she needs to do her job? You get the idea. Yeah. And then emails, I will categorize those and deal with the 5 or 6 that come from my speaking agent, deal with all of them at once. The idea is to just focus as best you can on getting one category done. What does that do? That improves your self-esteem. That says, it makes you say to yourself, yes, I did that. I didn't think I could do it, but I got it done. What's next? And the tiger within you arises again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely it does. Absolutely does. I think that's such an important thing. And if we look at business growth, and particularly in a sales and marketing context, right, these systems and organization that you're talking about, Kitti, absolutely apply in your sales and marketing process. So if you're finding that you're managing all of your leads out of your inbox, first step is not to build a CRM system and a pipeline. Right? That may be step 2 or 3. First step is just to identify them in your inbox and maybe automatically tag them by keyword, right? Yeah. Set a filter or a rule that when they come into their inbox, they get tagged and made important. Yes. First thing. Second thing might be down the track as you improve that system is to have them push into your CRM as new leads and then build it from there. I think that's such an important thing that ultimately we're talking about organization. Systems are just a way of organizing workflow into simple, repeatable process. Yes. And if we try to complicate it too much, as you point out, Kitti, it becomes overwhelming and we often don't do it. And more importantly, we don't get to stick at it.
Correct. Yes. Hey, what do you think about color coding your emails?
I love it. I do it all the time.
Oh, good. Because I rely on it. I have 10 different colors. And if I really have to just get through the flotsam and jetsam, and so that these ones, okay, I can look at them in a few days. These ones have to be looked at immediately, if not sooner. kind of thing. So I just wanted to get your take on that. I'm delighted that we agree on that.
Yeah. I color code all my current clients when they come in. They've got rules against those ones. I've got another category that I've actually split my inbox in Gmail into my inbox and then a couple of tag categories as well.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them, which is actually getting a bit much, I have 40 emails that require action.
Oops.
Yeah, I better get to those ones. And then I've got a couple more that require a need reply, but not urgent, right? So things like bills, right, that requires action.
Yeah. And that's still all of the, notice that you are still managing all of those categories. But I said earlier that you won't be able to do it all. But you're certainly a lot further ahead than you are if you're not having some sort of system that you like. Now, maybe people don't like colors. That one of my mentors, she doesn't need it, but for many, especially, but I can tell you, especially if you're dyslexic, which is a large part of the spectrum of neurodiversity, then it becomes crucial. Yes, I'm speaking from experience. They all blend together, honey.
Absolutely. What do you find the hardest thing about applying organization systems in a business context?
Two things. One of the most difficult ways or things about applying organization is, it's the syndrome of, it's okay, I've got it under control, it's all good. But tomorrow it might not be as good. And that's where the overwhelm comes in. So cockiness, I suppose, would be one of the challenges. And the other, this is going to surprise you, is the absolute opposite, is lack of confidence that you can. Perhaps you've tried it before and not done well, so you relied on an assistant. And this is personal here. I thought that I couldn't manage all of the speaking emails and all of these things. And then my assistant took a leave of absence. I didn't have a choice. There was no time to hire anybody. So do I do fewer speaking engagements? Yes, but we're having this conversation without her, kind of thing. My point is that sometimes we think that we can't, but maybe you'll do less, but you will be able to, and you'll build your self-esteem. Do you have the children's book there about the little train who thought he could? I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Okay, well, exactly the same principle, except we're quite a few years older. So cockiness and underconfidence, I would say, would be the two things that can derail you from implementing organization systems.
Yeah, no, I like that. Okay, I just want to recap those because I think there's a couple of nuggets in there that you can apply pretty much to every part of your life. Right. The first one is to start small. Second one is actually see it through. To get a system in place, right, and not think that that's the final version, that you can improve it. And then kind of repeat that process over and over and over again until such time as you go, oh my God, look at how organized I am.
Yes, and it will be a cumulative process. Your first system, my God, I'm not using the same system that I was 4 months ago. I've tweaked it daily, just because that's evolution. We as entrepreneurs evolve. If we don't evolve, we're out of business. You have to evolve with clients, with trends, with your growing self, most importantly. So that
I love that. I love that. Kitti, we always end the podcast with a quick fire where I'm going to throw a bunch of questions at you that you're probably terrified about. But I would love to know, what has been your least favorite job to date?
Good heavens. Okay. Being an Uber driver.
Okay. I was not expecting you to say that, but there we go. What occupation other than the one you're in right now would you love to try?
Can we go to the next one and I'll come back to that one?
Have you ever thought about giving up?
Yes.
I think everybody does, right?
Yes, of course. As recently as yesterday, frankly. But I knew that I was tired. My defenses were down. And I said, just get some rest and you'll feel amazing in the morning. That's exactly what happened. That's my advice.
Yeah. How long did it take for you to see success in your business?
Again, that's an evolution, but I would say 2 years.
There we go. All right. Last but not least, Kitti, where can we find out more about you?
Go to declutterthebrain.com. Easy.
Fantastic. I really, really appreciate you joining us. I know you've got a fantastic resource on your website, which is the 7 easy steps to conquer your physical and mental clutter. That's available on your website. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. Kitti, it's been fantastic having you here today and appreciate you sharing some of your expertise.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's an honor.
Guys, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, share, and through all good channels, you'll see the dots at the top of your favorite podcast app. Click on those. There's usually a share button or something there that will enable you to do so. And we'll catch you on another episode of More Clients, Less Effort real soon. See you later.